John. John. These kind of places, I think, sparked our imagination a lot. So yeah, so we used to, we started with the steam tunnels that go underneath Manhattan way back when. I had read an article in New York Magazine that said that the steam tunnels, you could access them right below the Waldorf Astoria. And one day I was walking by the Waldorf when a fire was going on. So the firemen had opened up this staircase that went down. It was a golden door that was on the Waldorf Astoria on the side of it. And they needed access to it, I guess, to get like a hose, water, something. And so they left it open. And so I walked right down it and found these layers and layers and layers of tunnels. And I started mapping them out. And I went down there for like years. And finally I was able to go over, all around New York, or at least a certain part of New York, through these tunnels and come up in these subway grates, like all over the place. It was pretty fun. And so that was the same time that capital punishment was around. And so we all went down.
Consumer speak, please.
A, B, C, D, master.
Consumer speak, please.
A, B, C, D, master.
I'd never heard of capital punishment. I came across it when I was working at Academy Records as a used buyer, and there was this huge collection of stuff from this guy who was an eccentric. He started picking up records off the street, didn't care what they were, and there were also piles and piles and piles of porn DVDs everywhere. And there was a sword and an axe. He had actually died inside the apartment, and no one was aware of it until his neighbors complained. But it smelt of death. It was really gnarly. So we called it the Dead Guy Collection after that. And there was lots of interesting records. And one of them was the Capital Punishment record. And so when that one appeared, I was like, well, what the hell's this? It's just what strange music for teenagers to make then, before you had access to all this stuff.
How's it going, man? Good. How you doing?
Capital Punishment was my first band. Me and a friend of mine named Tony, who went on to become the drummer in DFL, Adam Horowitz's hardcore band. He and I got instruments, and almost as quickly as we got the instruments, we wanted to have a band, even though we had no idea how to play our instruments. So we started up Capital Punishment as a result of that. That was 1977.
And then I became involved at a slightly later stage. There was sort of a really early phase. Tony ended up moving to California, and that's when we needed some new people. We needed a new drummer. That's when we got Ben involved. And then later we needed a bassist, and that was Peter Swann.
I think I blocked that out. There was a drummer before me. I mean, I just met Kriss because we were both in 8th grade together at Calhoun, and our parents were friends.
My parents both thought it was very cool that I was doing it, but were in no position to fund an album production. You know, Ben had a full drum set in his parents' living room on the 5th floor of an apartment building, which raises all sorts of concerns by today's standards. But they were very supportive of it, and Kriss's parents, of course, were wonderful. I mean, they were always there for us. They, Kriss's mom brought the helium tanks in.
They were career Broadway thespians. They also were students over at HB Studios, Herbert Berghoff Studios, which is currently on Bank Street in Manhattan, and great friends and fans and lovers of Herbert and Uda, the two people that founded HB Studios. And that's how my parents and Ben's parents became great friends.
Wake up in the morning, I'm feeling alright. I can't wait to see break of the night. Waiting to see.
It's so funny, you were in my dream last night, you and the boys. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I hope we weren't making too much trouble.
It's a really weird dream. It was like a Japanese hockey game, right? And they literally were like measuring the puck if the puck had gone over the goal of the...
This, I've got a huge amount of these places, right? I've got like 8 different storage spaces in 3 different states. This is the one where, in theory, almost everything to do with music is or should be. This is dusty and nasty. Oh, here we go. I see it says Variety on it. Variety Recording was the name of the company that pressed
Is that the album? Look.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Original. In the original pressing.
Yeah. Here. Okay.
Oh, there it is.
That is from the cover of Roadkill right there.
That's so crazy.
That's
the actual.
That's the mask.
That's so cool
fine,
that you
right?
saved that. I think it was like part of just the different activities that we were doing that, he would sort of instigate. Let's, record an album.
The other thing that we were doing a lot at the time was sort of public theater. I remember we staged public floggings. He'd put on a vest underneath his coat, and we'd handcuff him to a railing and sentence him in need of flogging and have this big bullwhip.
Kriss was very much the sort of creative center of the group. I mean, I think nowadays there's been all these headlines. They keep saying Ben Stiller's punk rock band, and I think Ben would be the first person to admit it wasn't Ben Stiller's band. It was really Kriss Roebling's band, if anything, and we certainly weren't punk rock.
And right about the time that Ben took over the drums in the project, the sort of what we were doing just absolutely changed. And so we started to get interested in the idea of, not so much classic songwriting as much as just sort of like making sounds that sort of plumbed the depths of our unconscious, just in blah, whatever way, and we weren't very concerned with whether or not, you know, we were making mistakes or what. We just wanted to fuck around in the studio, and it was around that same time that we started exploring places like this too, because in a way it sort of feels when you go to places like this like you're exploring some sort of forgotten aspect of your own mind in the form of some deserted place. And I feel like in a way that's sort of what we were doing when we recorded Roadkill too.
Probably pretty dangerous, but it was a really exciting adventure because it was so illegal.
Oh. Wait. Shh. I think there's police here.
Continuing to hunt for the man or men responsible for the murder of 11 young women in Los Angeles.
Well, if nothing else, we can go in the tunnels. You know, the idea that there's kind of like this sense of there being a frontier or a wilderness, even in a place like New York, you know? A place where everything's not just set up for you to, you know, please do this, do it this way, pay this amount, turn left, turn right. It's like, you know, a place where everything is kind of up to you a little bit more. Oh yeah, here's where it becomes the tunnels. You guys good? I don't know if anything is live here, so I can't speak for any of these wires.
You know, I was probably, you know, much more a sort of passive personality in that I was involved in a lot of this stuff. I was never initiating it, and I was always kind of happy to be part of that. But there was a part of me that was always a little bit hesitant about what comes next. And most of us were probably a bit nerdy in a certain way. But yeah, probably Peter Swann and I were, you know, more on the nerdy scale.
You know, we kind of all congregated around the lab on the 4th floor when we got to 9th grade, which was where John Rader had his main base of operations, and he was sort of the like our favorite teacher, and he's still there, still teaches there, and he's a brilliant guy, and I mean just a great person, and but like a real science guy.
This guy is a sports writer. This guy is a sports writer. He's an architect. His son is a student here right now. He is an attorney for the University of Michigan, and his mother works in the alumni office. Okay, this is Ben. Here's Peter Zusi. And where's Swann? Oh, here he is, up here.
He is the last remaining person at Calhoun that's still there, who remembers us constantly sequestering ourselves into the music room and rehearsing all the time. And when Roadkill was done, we gave him a copy, you know. So he's sort of like the one teacher that still harks back to that time at the school.
I still have an equalizer that they built in the bottom drawer over there, and I showed that to them when they were back here for a reunion. It may have been even when Peter was a junior. He and Ben came to me and asked if I would like to play with them in a jazz trio.
And then Peter Swann and John Rader and I were in John and the Raiders, where we would play at this thing called Cafe Calhoun, which was sort of like a talent show that they had at Calhoun, and play these little jazz numbers.
People ask me about him a lot because they know him from his movies. And I said, yeah, he was a good student. He was Secretary of Student Government, and he plays a real hot set of drums. Because a lot of people don't know that he plays the drums. I knew that Peter Swann, he went to Berkeley, and his major was rhetoric. And then he went to the University of Maryland Law School, and he graduated first in his class. And then he got this job with the law firm in Arizona. And then Janet Napolitano, when she was governor, appointed him as a judge, and then she elevated him to the appeals circuit.
The name capital punishment for a judge's band might seem a little edgy, especially if a judge chose that name. But number one, I had nothing to do with the choice of the name because all that was done long before I joined. And number two, everybody's been very understanding about it. And I will say on my court, we don't do capital cases. So that implies, the name of the band implies no views one way or the other on a controversial topic.
Peter Zusi, Slavic languages we don't teach here. That's what he's a professor of.
And then when I finished my PhD, basically my first job was in Czech literature as opposed to German or comparative. And so was my second job. So here I am. And now I'm in London, and I've been at University College London for 11 years. I did not keep up with the guitar, but I have gone back to it in the last couple of years. I'm slowly working my way back to the extraordinary level of proficiency I had at age 13, but perhaps we'll move beyond that.
Kriss has always been marching to his own drummer, and I think he still is. But he seems to be in good shape.
Kriss was an amazing kid. I mean, I probably never met anybody who was as internally motivated as he and less externally motivated. He did what he wanted to do. He didn't really care what other people thought. He didn't care about grades. He didn't care about external reward. I mean, I'd give him an assignment to do something in a class, and he'd do a 3-page paper on something, and he'd come back with a 40-page story about something else. And I just got to know Kriss very well, and we talk a lot about music, about various things, and he was telling me about this band, and we talk about it, and then he asked me to help him out, and I said, sure.
I think it was an assignment for English class to do a project based on a short story or just some sort of like final project, and we decided to do a film with Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe.
He wrote the script, and I had a tiny role as a policeman, which I barely could handle.
And my dad was perfect to play the old man with the evil eye, and he was into it. And then Peter Zusi, his dad was in it, Alf Zusi. He played one of the constables, and we really went for it. I mean, we rented costumes. We got one of those handsome cabs, horse and carriage in Central Park, and shot a scene in the back of one of those, which worked pretty well. We did a whole sequence where he dismembered my father. That was fun. My dad really, he was a good sport. Like there was one scene where he had to cut off his leg, and so my dad had to lie in the bathtub and put his leg outside the bathtub so you couldn't see the rest of it, and then we put fake blood. That was awesome. But it was really fun. And Kriss was in it. Kriss played the main character. And he was really good. But it was a really fun project. And just another one of the fun Kriss projects that we did.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We recorded at a place called Delta Studios, with a great engineer named Andrew Milano.
Being a technician, you get scheduled. Stuff gets scheduled. Some of it's famous, some of it's not famous. I see this thing on the schedule. And I go in and I talk to the studio manager and give me some background. What is this? Well, we don't know. Woman called, bringing a band in. Okay, young guys. And they come in with, I believe it was Kriss's mother. And she literally turns to everybody and goes, okay, kids, have a good time. Just like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm in for it.
So he was very patient with us, but I do remember some eye rolls and some rather sort of exasperated looks at times.
I remember sitting behind the drums and being extremely nervous because everything was being recorded and realizing that I really didn't know what I was doing, and it was stressful. I remember it being stressful.
Ben and Chris, I can remember having discussions constantly, these little, like, pull to the side, well, you know, we got to play that better, or, you know, this and the other thing.
We had finished recording what we intended to record, and we had a couple hours left. So we had to do something with it, because this was expensive studio time. And so Delta Time was born, and I think there might be 2 chords in the song, but it's basically a 1-chord song that we just started playing very, very quickly. All our friends were there, so you'll hear, you know, extra voices in the track, and Ben, you know, we thought it'd be fun to just have Ben sing, which he had never done, and he came out with this Cookie Monster voice, just organically. It just started happening, and I remember we were all just like bug-eyed, thinking, "Who's this? This is kind of cool."
Delta time, oh Delta time, across that big blue sea. Oh yeah. Delta time, oh Delta time, how much you mean to me. Oh yeah.
It was a bizarre album, but it wasn't like we didn't want to find an audience for it, you know? It wasn't like we were deliberately telling everyone to go fuck themselves. We wanted to find people that enjoyed it, difficult as a prospect as that was. So we would do things like, you know, whenever we found wet concrete, we would always put CP, capital punishment, in the concrete, somehow thinking that would help advertise us. And then the other thing we did was we used to call up, you know, there used to be cable TV, used to be on channels where you could buy time.
Manhattan eyes, they see everything.
And Channel J was the channel that had dirty stuff on it, like late at night. And Interludes After Midnight would be, he would like sit around.
With your host, Daniel J., and Daniel J. was a seemingly very intelligent, nice, bearded fellow, but he did all of his interviews naked.
Like he's sitting around cross-legged, totally naked. And the guy looked like a rabbi, and it was like a whole thing. And we loved it.
We have a very interesting show for you tonight. A couple of very interesting, beautiful guests, and a topic about getting comfortable in swinging.
They always had a phone-in section on this show. And so what we would do, we'd be like, yeah, we want to ask Daniel J. a question, and we'd call up. And then when they put us live on the air, we would just scream, "Capital Punishment is a rock band!" and then hang up. So these were the ways, this was our idea of marketing at that point.
I think there were 500 copies printed ever, and many of those went to friends and family. 2 of them are still in my living room, so I don't know how many went out for guerrilla marketing.
I mean, I feel like my memory is that it kind of stopped after the album. The album was sort of the peak. I remember the box of records and having the box of records. Chris took it further. Chris was taking it to record stores and trying to get it out there. I remember just having this like box of albums and, you know, showing my parents and I think my sister making fun of me, which hasn't stopped.
The last time that I saw Ben until a couple of years ago, I ran into him on Broadway, on the Upper West Side. And literally he was saying, "Hey, Peter, we're about to move out to LA. We're gonna give it a go." And you know, off he went, and obviously it worked out pretty well.
Back then, with the exception of Sam Goody, all record stores were little mom and pop operations. And so we went to all those and sold it there, you know. And to our surprise, we did find, I'd come back after a month or two, and they'd be like, yeah, they're sold, here's your money. You know, I'd be like, you want more? And so sometimes they'd re-up even, you know? So it was cool. I mean, not that we sold a lot, but at least some got sold that way. And I imagine that's how it wound up in that person's house, that Mike Sniper was going in to appraise his collection after he died and found our album 36 years after that.
Because it kind of had everything that like a record collector would dream of from that era. It was like the art was crazy and it was very DIY art. You could tell it was self-released. You know, it had like a dead animal and then you listen to it and I was like, this is like Cabaret Voltaire and Pere Ubu and Chrome, but a little bit of Bowie and then just like industrial noise rock, like all combined, and like primitive, like really primitive. But it's the kind of thing that like, you know, someone like in my circle of people that are into that kind of stuff is like the ultimate find. The copyright in 1982, intriguing. Then you look at the, listen to the what they use. Kriss Roebling, synthetic strings, lead guitar, tape loop unit. Jars pot tops, vibra slap, cowbell saw-like ploit percussion, African drum, Oriental cocorica percussion, Turkish drum melody treatments. You know, it's like. And then I had this kid. I shouldn't say kid. But I had this young staff member who came on board to help me with reissues, actually. And I gave him a list of things. And on it was like Capital Punishment. I said it to him with a bunch of other things. And he's like, Kriss Roebling is like an urban spelunker. I just emailed him. And it is Ben Stiller, you know? And I was like, are you kidding me?
When Kriss said there was an outsider music label, when he said they were interested in the album, you know, I was a little bit skeptical.
And I have to admit at first thinking like, really? But then he was like, here, listen to my stuff. And he got me some of his music that he had done. And there were some tracks on that I was like, oh yeah, that is copped from Roadkill. Okay, fair enough. Now I believe you.
Actually, I was in a conference room at a law firm working on rewriting the rules of civil procedure, which is not a very rock and roll thing to do. And my phone started vibrating like crazy. And I thought somebody must have died, something terrible has happened. So I went out and looked at it. And it turns out that Ben had mentioned the Roadkill on the Howard Stern show. And suddenly, there was all this interest.
I guess that's just the power of Howard. But, you know, or talk about it on the Tonight Show or something like that. And, you know, it's been fun. It's just fun to talk about. You know, so for us as friends, you know, the rehearsals actually have been a real opportunity to get together and hang out.
That's how the idea of us getting together in a room and rehearsing again came. So we started doing some rehearsals and they were really fun. We had a really good time and it felt really good. It felt like if we worked at it, that it could turn into something that was, you know, enjoyable, you know.
I wouldn't have predicted that my entire life would have gone the way it's gone, but looking back on it now, if you had said, you know, in 40 years you guys are going to come back together in New York after Ben's a movie star and Kriss has been creating for decades and Peter's a professor in London, I would have said, yeah, that sounds about right.
Don't you know it's the truth?
time since I sold my soul. Better get on the streets before I get too old. Come on, darling, look inside my brain. Do you find me a lover or am I insane? Dirt on the streets, last night's food. Can't get my brain right, so mine into my mind rights mood. Come on, darling, look inside my brain. Do you find me a lover or am I insane? Look into me. What do you see? That's my bird! Dirt on the street, last night's found. Can't get my brain right, mine into my mind right. Come on, darling, look inside my brain. Do you find me, you lover, or am I insane? Look into me. What do you see? Ah, it's my brain. Dirt on the streets, last night's food. Can't get my brain right tonight into my mind rights mood. Come on, darling, look inside my brain. Do you find me your lover or am I insane? Look into me. What do you see? Oh, it's my brain.
Punishment. That's a good song. Did you like that song, Floyd? Yes. Ooh. We'll be right back.
And then after we went off to college, capital punishment really was no more. But Ben and I started a rap group that we called the Sucker MCs, and actually devoted some serious energy to making some rap songs in, I think, 1985. Then the Beastie Boys came along, and they were much better, and they killed us. So.
Wow, is there any of that exists?
There is.
Lumberjack, a backwoodsman. Humble lumberjack, humble lumberjack, humble lumberjack, a backwoodsman. Humble lumberjack sits in his shack, talking to no one and then don't talk back. Surrounded by leaves, plants and trees, he chops his wood for the winter freeze. He lives way off the beaten trail, and he has no box cause he gets no mail. 25 miles from the closest phone, and each of those miles he walks alone. The man has a cabin, 30-foot square, that he built with his hands, which are always bare. His home is his castle, his silent domain, a solitary king with a lifelong reign. Humble lumberjack, humble lumberjack, humble lumberjack, a backwoodsman. Humble lumberjack, humble lumberjack, humble lumberjack, a backwoodsman.